Hey there, and welcome into another exciting episode of A for Effort. I'm your host, Matt, and on today's episode, we're going to break down another one of my most anticipated films of the year, and that's Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. I will say off the top that I was a little hesitant at first with this film, because I'm not the biggest Johnny Depp fan. When I watched the first one of the things I enjoyed the most was Colin Farrell's performance in that film. It was wonderful. He was great. And then to turn around and take his character and turn his character into Johnny Depp was kind of upsetting. But I am pleasantly surprised to admit that I didn't so much mind Johnny Depp. Now, there was a little eye thing, you might want to call it a bug eye thing going on, that took me out of the movie right away, but I was later then actually enjoying his character. He was very charismatic, very manipulative with his words. I actually found myself enjoying the performance he put on. It wasn't as over the top or even remotely close to over the top that I thought it was going to be. He actually did a pretty good job with this character of Grindelwald. David Yates returns to direct, and this is, I believe, his 5th turn in the Harry Potter universe, and he's just really an outstanding director of being able to direct these characters and direct the world of Harry Potter, because unlike the Harry Potter series, I find the Fantastic Beasts series allows the audience to just engage with the magic, because we're not telling them like Harry Potter series where the kids can't use their magic or they're being told not to use their magic. In this, they're just using it. They're adults. They're allowed to use their magic, and it's fun to watch that. It's fun to see characters getting to use magic, and one of the things that I wish there was a little bit more of was Newt Scamander himself. This movie does a lot of world building really fast and does a lot of setup for the remaining films in this series. Turns out that this Fantastic Beasts series is going to be turned into a series of 5 films, and this movie suffers a bit from middle movie syndrome, where you know that there's another one coming, so it's all set up for the next one. And obviously there's 3 more coming, so it's set up for 3 more after this. Do I think the next 3 are going to be enjoyable? Absolutely. Was this enjoyable? Absolutely. But I wish there was more of certain things. I love the character of Newt Scamander. He's really great. But there was a lot of setup for his brother and for his ex-love interest, Leta Lestrange. A lot of setup for Grindelwald, a lot of exposition to how Ezra Miller's character from the first film came back. One of the characters that I was pleasantly surprised by and actually wish he had a little bit more of a role in the film, and obviously an actor of this magnitude will be back definitely in films to come, and that's Jude Law in the role of Dumbledore. He was really good, and I wish he had more time in the film. But like I said, I know for a fact that he definitely will be back in later films. So we will get more Dumbledore, we will get more Grindelwald. I just wish that this movie had a little bit more Newt Scamander. There was a few scenes that felt a bit shoehorned because of the name Fantastic Beasts, like they had to shoehorn in a few beasts here and there. And that wasn't a bad thing. I did enjoy the scenes with some of the beasts. The Niffler comes back and has some wonderful, hilarious scenes. But it just felt like, okay, the series is called Fantastic Beasts, so we have to keep beasts in the series. I honestly think that they could have just called the movie The Crimes of Grindelwald and just left it at that and taken the Fantastic Beasts moniker off the film, because the first one could have been called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and then you have The Crimes of Grindelwald, and then you have the next movies in the series. It doesn't have to be Harry Potter and so like this one being called Fantastic Beasts and The Crimes of Grindelwald. Like, you don't need that like you had the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Like, none of that. Just call it what you're going to call it. We all know it's part of a series of films, so it's going to be, just call it what you need to call it. And so, like I said, I had a really great time. And there's a lot of the returning cast back. Eddie Redmayne obviously is back as Newt Scamander, and I wish he had a bit more to do, but he was enjoyable. Dan Fogler, Alison Sudell, Katrine Watterson, Ezra Miller, Johnny Depp all return. And obviously Johnny Depp's new to the cast, but he's also not new to the cast because he was in the first film for a brief second here at the end. Zoe Kravitz, Colum Turner, Poppy Corby-Tooch, Jude Law, Claudia Kim, and William Needleman all round out the cast. Another character that was quite surprising and interesting was Claudia Kim. She played Nagini, and if you've ever seen the original Harry Potter, spoiler for Harry Potter, Nagini is Voldemort's snake. And it turns out that she has an affliction, a dark affliction in this film, where she has a blood curse, and at night she turns into a snake, and eventually she will turn into a snake full time and no longer be able to return to human form. So that's where in 80 years from now, when Harry Potter takes place, she will be a snake in those films. But in this, she is a woman. And I actually enjoyed her role, small, but she was quite enjoyable. Some of the things that I didn't enjoy, there was a lot of exposition. Like I said, there was a lot of setup for the next film. A lot of the plot centers around Ezra Miller's character, that he's part of a famous wizard bloodline. And a lot of people in the movie believe that he is a Lestrange, and that he's the last living heir to the Lestrange clan. But it ends up turning out, and this is a huge spoiler, that he's related to Dumbledore. And so I wonder how they're going to work that in, because the whole movie is basically, let's find Ezra Miller. Who can find him first? And it was kind of exactly the same in terms of, because that, in the end, that was the plot of the first one as well, was who could find him first. And the thing is that he is an Obscurial, first and foremost. He has his powers, and he chooses not to use them, so they manifest in the form of an Obscurial. And so the movie really centers around who can find him first. And it's not a bad plot, but there's a lot of exposition setting up who he might be, who he actually is, who he's not. There's an entire scene towards the end of the film that's just, let me tell you a story, now I'm going to tell you a story. And it's like, we could have done this, if you built the narrative a little differently, you could have done it a little differently. Now, that's not to say the movie's not good. I enjoyed myself, but it just lacked a bit when it came to narrative. It's a lot of setup for number 3, 4, and 5, and that's fine. I will be seeing them. I like Harry Potter. I think it's a great series, and this Fantastic Beasts series is playing out nicely. I'm excited for a little Jude Law, Johnny Depp back and forth. There's the notion in the film that it's possibly a love thing between them, not a brotherly love, but more of an actual I love you scenario, and that's interesting. I know that in the past that J.K. Rowling has said she intended for the character of Dumbledore to be gay, so that's interesting to see if that plays out on screen. I know some fans will be upset. I won't be one of them. I think that's great if that's the case. It's interesting to have that dynamic in the universe. But overall, I have to say I'm just going to give the movie an A for effort. Again, I had a great time. I thought it was fun, but unfortunately, it just doesn't live up to the Harry Potter expectations that I have. It's just a middle movie. It's setting up the next movie in the franchise, and I wish there was a little bit more of just, this is a movie, here's A, B, and C, maybe we'll get a next one. But they know they're going to do another one, so they just said, okay, here's A little bit of B, and come back for part C. That takes away from the overall score that this movie's going to get. A for effort. I've been your host, Matt. Like, subscribe, share, comment on the YouTube channel. Come back to us next time on our 50th episode of A for Effort, and when we will have another quality movie review.